Hello everyone, my name is AZZATRU, how are you, and welcome to another Star Wars gaming news video of mine. In this video, I am going to be taking a look at some of the developers moving on and off from Respawn Entertainment, because there's a lot going on regarding Titanfall and their Star Wars game. Before we do get into the news, because there's some really interesting details that have surfaced in the past couple of days regarding the future of these games, I will just be talking about a brief, quick rundown of what's going on at Respawn in terms of projects, because not everyone knows Respawn are making a Star Wars game. I mean, it's not really publicised very much, they've just said it a couple of times, but a lot of you that watch me for Battlefront 2 news probably don't realise that there is a Star Wars game coming from Respawn within 2019-ish. And some of you don't know who Respawn are. So Respawn Entertainment is a studio that is under EA. They were purchased by EA last year, and before that they were independent and they created the Titanfall franchise, Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2. And during the development of Titanfall 2, there was a split. They separated a Titanfall team and then created a Star Wars team to create an EA Star Wars title. And that is being headed by Stig Asmussen, who was the game director for God of War and is quite a prolific game director. The team was very small for some time when it was in pre-production, but now it's ramped up to full development. Respawn are also working on a VR game, so I suppose there is actually going to be a separate team for that. It's going to be a lot smaller, but that's also happening. We've not really heard much about this Star Wars game. We've not heard anything about the next Titanfall. We can only assume it is in development alongside this Star Wars game. But if you're not in the loop, what do we know about this Star Wars game? Well, we actually don't know that much. We know it's coming out in the fiscal year of 2019, which is anything from the start of next year up until the end of 2019 and early 2020. I'm going to assume it's going to come out late next year because there is a new Star Wars film coming out at the end of next year. But before we get into those details, let's talk about what the game could be. Well, it's being headed by a God of War director. God of War is focused on close quarters, melee combat. It makes sense for that to happen because in the motion capture sessions we saw a little bit of a sneak preview of what this game will be a couple of years ago. They were fighting and doing all kinds of crazy actions with lightsabers. Now, we've been wanting a proper lightsaber Jedi vs Sith game for a long time, and I feel like this is going to be it, or at least it's going to be a huge element of it. So let's get into the news then. Well, there is some quite significant developers moving on to the Star Wars project. Blair Brown, who previously worked at BioWare, had this to say: "It's been an amazingly wild ride, but after 6 years, 3.5 games, Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect Andromeda, something else, and Anthem, I'm leaving BioWare next month. Super excited to start at Respawn in July and work on a new Star Wars game." And he was not the only one. There is another developer who is going to be a producer called Rhonda, and she said, "Proud to announce that I've accepted a position as producer at Respawn, where I'll be working on their new Star Wars game. It's been a long 8 years here at Blizzard supporting Warcraft, and I couldn't be more excited for this chance." So that's fairly awesome, but I wanted to take more attention towards Blair's LinkedIn profile. So under the section of producer at BioWare, it says, "Built and developed a live service plan post-ship that released content weekly to players for a year, including community updates through Twitch and social media." Now, this is exactly what Battlefront 2 should be having, and this is exactly what the next Star Wars game from Respawn should be having. It needs a constructive, workable live service plan that actually is a live service with regular content updates for a long period of time, and it's actually talked about on social media. So fingers crossed they get this right for the Respawn game. So that is it for the Star Wars gaming news, but I did want to mention this quickly because there has been a number of key Respawn developers leave mainly from the Titanfall team. I'm pretty sure they're all from the Titanfall team. So they've all gone back to Infinity Ward, and this is the studio that created the original Call of Duties, which is where Respawn was born from. 40 plus developers from Respawn left Infinity Ward to create Titanfall at Respawn, and some of the core developers have left, and that is kind of a shock, especially art directors like Joel, who created the look and feel of Titanfall. It's only come to the surface that they've left Respawn to Infinity Ward in the past couple of days. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm definitely disappointed that, you know, this has happened, because there's some really talented people that have left. But at the same time, most of the core Titanfall team is largely unchanged. It's just, I think it's about 8 or 9 people that have left at the time of this recording. I'm just glad there is so much of the core Titanfall team still working on Titanfall at Respawn. You know, Titanfall is one of my favourite games in probably ever, really. I just love those games so much, and I think the development team at Respawn is some of the greatest developers there is. They're just so talented, and I really hope we get to see Titanfall 3 in the near future. I don't think we'll see it at EA Play this year. I think they'll leave it a little bit later. I mean, if it comes out at the start of next year, great, and it could potentially be announced right now, but there hasn't been any leaks for EA Play for Titanfall. I mean, they totally could talk about the Respawn game at EA Play, but I feel like that's too early as well. But we'll have to wait and see. We're only 2 weeks away from that, so who knows? Maybe we shall see one of those games at EA Play. That is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching until the end of the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like and comment below your thoughts on anything I've talked about in this video. Check out any of the 2 previous videos on screen, and I shall see you all in my next Star Wars Battlefront 2 video. Goodbye.